All right, Zach Kinski on the Circuit Podcast with our new segment, Prepping for Peach Jam. We got about 1 month until Peach Jam kicks off. I'm really happy to be joined by the head coach of the number one team in the country, James Johns, team final head coach. Really, you guys were ranked number one before you made a couple of additions, which we'll talk about. But Coach, really happy you took the time to join us, and excited to talk about how you guys are getting ready for Peach.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk about it as well. This is the culmination of a long spring and a long summer, so looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Before I do that, we'll get the viewers a little background to yourself. I'm just going to rattle off some questions for you that you should be able to answer relatively quickly. Your playing background and your coaching background. Walk us through it a little bit.
I played at the University of Maryland Eastern Shore after high school, and then at Westchester University for 3 years prior to just starting a normal life.
Right. Which it includes coaching right now. Before you made your way over to team final in 2018, you helped guide We Are One to back-to-back Under Armour championships. Like I said, you've been at team final since 2018. What led to that transition? And how's your time been, within the team final organization?
We are one back-to-back championships and continuing to kind of find challenges. I had a great relationship with Rob Brown, even though we were on the other side of things. And after the second championship, we were actually down at a Made Hoops event. I was actually down trying to watch my son play at that time. And we had a conversation about, what was next for me and, what I wanted out of this and what my goals were. And he said, come over and see if I can help make that happen. And again, it was another challenge to try to win. And, the EYBL is the cream of the crop in grassroots basketball. So it was just another opportunity to take on that challenge.
I'm curious to hear, Rob's sales pitch. I've known Rob for almost 10 years now. He's one of my favorite guys in grassroots. When he wants something, I'm sure he, knew he, wanted to bring you in for a reason. What did that sales pitch include?
I don't know. Rob's kind of a straight shooter. So it's like, hey, this is we're looking to do some things different at team final. And, I've had a certain success level, in grassroots. So his sales pitch was like, hey, let's come together and try to win one and try to, continue to make team final the best program in our area.
You mentioned your area, area dominance is kind of hard out there because everything's, there's a lot of competition out there. Is that one of the reasons you kind of saw the team final name and the reputation they had, and kind of just makes everything a little more streamlined for you?
Rob does a great job as far as like keeping everything organized, but it was more about the basketball challenge more than anything. And again, Rob handles everything in a professional manner, so that makes everything easy, of course. But I just think just the challenge of trying to coach on the EYBL circuit and and see how well I can do on that level.
For sure, you and Coach Aaron Burt, who's has been in the EYBL for years as well. How do you guys handle, and I mean, maybe it's an organizational thing. How do you guys handle who coaches each group? Is it kind of just switch off?
AB, my first year with team final, I was actually AB's assistant, me and my current assistant, Wayne Jones. It was just like, you just have to be selfless. That's one of the things we just kind of always do what's best for each and every group. Like Coach Tahar has a group who he coached 17s 2 years ago. So it was more about just we take a group and we kind of guide them all the way through unless some other things happen outside of that. And there's a change that need to be made or somebody moves on to like Bobby moved on to coaching college at Wagner. So we kind of just, it's every year by year what's best for the group. And, AB's just selfless, he's been a 17U coach on this level for a long time. So, he's been able to be, again, just selfless and do whatever's best for the organization.
Yeah, I feel like he's just kind of a program staple at this point.
Right. Without a doubt.
Yeah, for sure. All right, we're going to move on to your squad this season. I've been covering grassroots for almost a decade. It will be a decade now. might be one of the most talented. It might be the most talented roster on paper that I've seen. We'll start there. I'm going to ask you to give I guess a 1 minute, as short as you can, elevator pitch of, to your squad, about your squad, assuming that the general viewer already knows that you have the number 1 and the number 2 ranked player in the country, right? So like outside of that, how do you explain like what you have in front of you right now, especially for July?
First, we have a huge target, but more than anything about my team, I think when you get outside of those two names that we're talking about, in Jalen and Emoni, you have to talk about a kid like Derek Lively, who I feel like is a top 5 player in the country. You can't overlook Corey Floyd, who I think is grossly underrated. It's almost a sin how underrated he is when he's a kid who's going to UConn. Otega Owe, who every time we play, somebody calls and said, "Who's that kid?" So I mean, even all the way down to, Jaden Arline, who nobody talks about, who's our best defensive player and a complete shot maker.
Yeah.
So people, Jabathea, who nobody talks about, who comes off the bench and plays point guard and makes great decisions. I mean, I think Justice Williams, who's going to LSU. I just think we just have an unbelievable group of kids who, have all been unselfish, extremely unselfish, and have bought into team final being more important than myself. So we have a thing we always talk about, and it's a cliche, but it really, the we over me. And I think they bought into that, as cliche as it is. Everybody has said, it's about us winning the Peach Jam this summer because, they're all successful in their own right. So nobody's not getting anything what they want out of it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
right.
So they're just an unselfish group of kids, completely blessed to coach a group like this.
I think that helps because they've been together for a number of years, which makes, I guess, the addition of Emoni Bates could have been, I guess, somewhat polarizing within the organization. So I guess I kind of want to get inside the, whenever you hear, hey, Emoni Bates is interested in playing for me, it's never going to be a no, right? It's like, how do we make this work? So I guess when that was, that the idea of, having Jalen play with Emoni and then joining your group, right? Because you were already the number 1 ranked player or team in the country, right? Without Emoni. So right. It really adds some, some starter fluid to what you're doing. I'm eager to hear, what that, I guess, the organizational conversations were when that idea was presented.
The first thing is, there was some, the players talk to each other more importantly. And so when that comes about, the players always tell anybody who wants to play for us, they reach out to James and Wayne to kind of talk to them and see if it makes sense. And then, of course, me and Wayne argue about it and try to see if it makes sense for us. We tie Kyle, and the whole staff kind of gets tied into it and to see if it makes sense. If we feel like it makes sense, then it's a phone call to Rob. We say, Rob, this is what's in front of us. What are you thinking? We have conversations with him and see if it makes sense and how it can happen. Again, we're a family. These guys have been together for 3 years. So the biggest thing is to not do anything that's divisive.
Right. You don't want to burn any bridges there.
Right. So the number one thing after we all talked and the powers that be, blessed it, I think the next thing we did was we kind of talked to the kids, you know what I mean? And
was that a team meeting individually? Like,
we meet with everybody individually.
Right.
We again, just to get their feelings, because it's kind of, they're still 17-year-old kids, and
of course,
they'll clam up in a group and nobody wants to
you get an honest opinion if you're talking.
Right. Right. So after talking to the kids, and the kids were like, a lot of the kids, because of the level, the talent level we already had on the team, it was like, hey, let's go make an unbelievable summer. We talked about legacy. Let's have a great legacy. Let's leave something behind us in this grassroots thing and see what it can be. 10 years from now, let's be in that conversation.
Right.
So that's the kind of message we sent. And then, after we talk to the kids, of course, we have to talk to the most important people in this, the parents, and make sure that, you know what I mean, they're okay with it because they're the kids who drive these kids to practice, and they put so much into this. And we just have such a unbelievable group of kids and family. Everybody welcomed them and said, "Hey, let's do this." So
Right.
it wasn't very hard at all. The hardest thing about it was logistically, how do we get him here? How do we, you know what I mean? I think that was the biggest thing.
Right, and from outside looking in, I've known the Bateses for quite a while, and getting him in a situation where he's surrounded by as much talent as he has, I think it was appealing for both sides. So when I heard that it was happening, I was like, well, that's it's a scary proposition because I know that the way your program operates and the talent Emoni has, he should slide right in because I know he's despite what some people might say, he's a super unselfish player. Right, he wants to win, and that he's as competitive as it gets. So, out of your explanation there, I'm eager to at least ask. When you call Rob and ask, "Hey, we got this guy interested in playing," it's usually not Emoni Bates, right? Well, what was his reaction when he said, "Hey, we got a guy wanting to play for us, and it's Emoni"?
Rob in traditional Rob fashion, very stoic. He didn't give off much energy about it, and he wasn't against it. He was just like, let me look into this. You know what I mean? He was intrigued as well. Like, I mean, it's hard for anyone not to be intrigued about that type of situation. So, but Rob's always, like, again, always very professional. So for him, it wasn't like, yo, let's do it, or no. He was like, let's see if we can even make this happen before we even have a really heavy conversation about it. So, running up the proper channels, talk to Emoni's parents, because again, the conversations were with Emoni way before we talked to EJ, and once we did that, I think everybody felt like it was a good decision.
Yeah. So I guess we could talk about all the good things. All you got to do is watch the film of how you guys have played, right? It's exactly kind of what you'd think by having 8 ranked guys in your rotation. And the 2 guys that aren't are probably your most effective shot makers. You have a as complete a lineup as an EYBL team, can have going into Peach Jam. So when they first took the court together, what were your biggest challenges? What were your biggest worries off the bat?
I think initially my concern was, prior to getting to know Emoni, is what type of kid is he, because we have great kids.
Right.
And after having conversations, because we had conversation after conversation before this even happened.
Yeah.
And like, as we all do, we're subject to believing rumors and things like that. And what I found out was this kid was an unbelievable kid too. So It was easy. It was like, he's like, the thing that I think he brought to the table the most was leadership and, energy, even in warm-ups, because when you're a good team, and now this kid who's arguably the number 1 player in the country comes in and he's willing to work hard. He's willing to come off the bench. He doesn't care about playing time. All he cared about was coming in, being a part of something, and winning. And that made it easy. So my concerns were those. Was he going to be divisive? Was he going to buy into what we do? Did he need to take 35 shots? And no, it was just all, it looked different from afar. And when he got here, he showed that I can play with anybody. I can pass the ball. He showed so many things over this short time frame that I think, and I hope we helped him and helped dispel some of the rumors.
No, for sure. And, I've watched a lot of him play, and I hope I don't get in trouble for saying this. I feel like part of why this situation is better for Emoni is because I think right now he's light years away, like ahead of most players as far as like knowing how to win and knowing what it takes from his teammates and where his teammates are supposed to be. And I think he just trusts himself so much more, at least during the high school season, to get things done, that now when you get him in a situation where he can trust his teammates, he knows they're going to be playing, with the same IQ as he does. I think it's you can get frustrated pretty quickly if you're surrounded and around talent that kind of makes you rely on yourself. So, as a basketball fan, it was awesome to see him, ease into your lineup as well as he has. And I think it's kind of a match made in heaven.
I think the first weekend, the first game, he was passing too much early. He came in and he had 2 6'10", 7 foot who can jump out the gym.
Passer. He's a
Yeah, like
passer.
right. He was looking for lobs, and like he was like, oh wow, I have all these tools, and it's just like, you know, a kid who gets a new toy and he wants to try different things. So it was
Sure.
definitely exciting.
Yeah, and he just looked a lot more comfortable and looked like he's having fun. I think that's your whole team looks like they're having fun. Who I want to talk about Otega a little bit because he's one of my favorite players on your team. Likes to defend the other team's best player. Goes hard. What's I guess what are coaches missing in him right now that might be interested but haven't offered?
I think everybody questions how well he shoots the ball. It's something, you know, I'm sure his high school coach talks about. I know we talk about it. Even his parents talk about it. So it's something that I know he's working extremely hard at, you know, and him being at Blair and being able to get in the gym every day. Those things come along. Ortega, you know, when you're that type of athlete and you're able to get away with certain things, you know, there's going to be deficiencies in your game because I'm athletic and I'm fast and I'm strong and I can get by people. So I think just continuing to develop his game, he'll be fine. That the sky's the limit for him.
For sure, I think he's one of the more underrated pieces of your rotation. It includes, like you said, Corey Floyd, Justice Williams, one going to UConn, one going to LSU. You have Jameel Brown, you have Jaden Arline, you have Jaleel Bethea, as you said. So that's 5 guards right there. You got Lively and Duran in the front court. Both, I agree with your assessment. I think Lively's at least a top 10 player. What he is simply based on his attributes alone, the intangibles he brings to the table. So you got those 2 in the front court. I like positionless basketball, right? I like guys being able to just kind of throw them in a rotation. If you were to consider, like, how do you treat Emoni? Because I can see him, and this is just me from the outside looking in, being a guy that triggers your offense, which then utilizes 3 guards on the wing that can all shoot the shit out of the ball, right? So, like, I'm eager to kind of see, do you see him sliding in the front court rotation, or do you see, I guess not playing small, but utilizing it, maybe, Jalen and Lively don't share the court as much if he's in a ball handler role. I guess I kind of want to hear it where you guys are at with that.
I'm glad you brought up Jameel Brown. Absolutely
Yeah.
unbelievable. He's probably the most unselfish kid on our
He's
team.
that glue guy on our team. He does a little bit of everything.
He does, and he shoots the hell out of the basketball. High major kid who he's probably been, I mean, like you said, the glue to all of this. Like, because his maturity and how comfortable he is with himself is like he's more comfortable with himself than most adults. You know what I mean? And
I remember speaking to him today.
And so that kid's going to win just because of who he is as a person. So we can't even talk about him enough. I can spend the next hour talking about Jameel Brown. But I think with us, the style that we need to play, and I think we've been able to play since Emoni has been part of this, is whoever gets it, you go. Even Jalen, he can get it off the rim and he pushes the ball and then initiates the offense. And we try to say if we get stops, we can just have fun and run. And, Derek Lively shoots drag threes, corner threes. Like there's literally nothing we can't do. So if Emoni gets it, he goes. We don't outside of when Ja's in the game, we really don't play with a point guard. And that's right. Okay, this is the point guard. Because if Jalen gets it and he's going to make the right play. Corey's going to make the right play. I think they've all handled the ball at some point where
I think that's why I asked, is because you don't really have a true point guard. They're all combo guards, but you trust them all, it sounds like.
I trust them all. Again, Jabathy is probably the truest of the point guards where he's an unbelievable decision maker. So other than that, we don't have one of those. Again, it's you get it and go. Let's get up the court fast and let's look to the rim early. And if not, we got drags, we got corner dribble handoffs, and we just get into what we do and try to. Again, we still play a 4-out, 1-in with 2 bigs in the game. So because of how well they and how skilled they are. So nothing really changed when we added Emoni except adding another talented piece.
Yeah, and I guess you're playing 4-out, 1-in. You're treating Emoni as he's a facilitator. He's a ball handler. I think that's where he's most useful for you guys. And like you said, Lively's out there shooting threes as well. I guess I asked because this year is unique. We have the 13th through the 19th is going to be your regular season, right?
Right.
15, 16 is playing to the 20th. So you get a day off, then you go 21st through the 25th for Peach Jam. So rotationally, you got 10 guys, you go 10 deep. Like, is that something where you're going to be cognizant of that early and be like, let's be honest, you guys are going to be more talented than most teams. So is that something you might try to get away with and be like, hey, let's try to limit our guys' minutes early, make sure we're still getting the wins, or let's play our top line until we pick those up and realize how we can vary our minutes later? Because I know it's going to be tricky for a lot of teams.
I mean, for the most part, we've done that even now. I don't
Right.
think we changed our formula. We've had a different starting lineup every game. It's just how we've done it. To kind of, you know what I mean? Because we're so talented. Like we start. Jalen has come off the bench 2 games. You know what I mean? Like we literally start a different lineup, and when we play matchups, if they're a small team, we'll probably play a little smaller. And if we can get away with resting somebody, whether it's Corey Floyd or Justice played 25, 28 minutes the previous game, then hey, guess what? Ja will probably play a little more. We can do that. So again, we won't change our formula at all. We'll continue to go out there and play 10 guys and try to go out there and do what we do.
Yeah, I'm excited for your kind of unsung guys, like you said, Jaleel and our line, because I think our line's, at the point that people are going to be scouting you, our line's not going to be on the scouting report anymore, right? It's going to be like, hey, he's going to be an annoyance, I think, for a lot of teams, because in his minutes he makes a pretty big impact and shoot the ball. I think Otega's going to do the same thing. So
yeah, without a doubt, I think Jaden, another kid who I don't know what college coaches don't see. They ask if they want a kid to play hard. They want a kid that makes shots. They want a kid who does what the coach asks them to do and goes to class. And what are you not paying attention to?
Right.
But again, the eye test sometimes coaches need to trust their eyes instead of what's on paper. So
that's why I'm excited for them to be, right courtside, seeing some of this stuff live for themselves, because they won't be able to deny it any longer. All right. I guess last topic, because it makes you unique, I think, as well, is that you got a son, going to be a junior in high school, also part of the team final program. How do you balance being a coach and a dad, being a dad myself, and knowing that that's going to be a challenge in the future?
Try not to talk about it as much. The biggest thing is we have a relationship outside of basketball. So basketball is the tie that binds. My son does what I did, and he's in the same world that I'm in, and he's having his own level of success. But like, not that can't be the only thing. So, I let his coach him to hard coaches him, and we have a conversation about it after the game, and then it's on to the next one, and keep it very simple, very loose. We'll even talk about my team sometimes and not his team. So again, it's more about just not making basketball the focal point between me and my son, without a doubt.
Is that the advice you give fellow parents in the same situation? Because I always hear, I remember I had a conversation with Frank Martin a long time ago about this topic, and when I let him know I had a son on the way, and I've heard this from a lot of people. Basically, it's the moment the game gets over, and I remember this as a kid, is like, don't, like, the car ride home is the most important thing. And I think that's like, it's telling in a kid's like, perception of how they, value the game that they're playing too. So, I always tell parents, like, hey, it's not as serious as, as you're making it out to be, especially single games, right?
Yeah, I think for me, just being in this so long, I think it's twofold. I think the hardest thing as a parent to do is be honest with yourself about your own child.
Mm-hmm.
And so being a coach and seeing that so much along this journey, along this process, and I think I'm probably overly honest about my son, because I don't want to be that. So again, let him be coached. So I've never coached my son. So let him be coached. Let him hear a different voice. A lot of times I don't even work out my son because he just needs to hear something else, so I can just be dad. So I think that's the biggest thing. And then giving input along the way. And again, I still hold them accountable. You work hard, do A, B, C, and D. But I think the biggest thing is being honest with yourself about your kid, and then also allowing coaches to coach. And I think early on in my son's development, I even struggle with allowing coaches to coach. because I always see the game from a coach's perspective.
Right.
So, but again, stepping away, and as he evolves and develops, letting the coach him and me just be dad.
Well, it sounds like that's what you do. It sounds like it could be either way, but that's what you do best as a dad, right? Is know that
Right.
there's that line. What do you feel like you do best as a coach? I always ask that to players. What do you feel like you do best on the court? What do you feel like is, I guess, differentiates you as a coach? If you were to explain what's different about you based on anyone else that could be coaching.
I think being relationship oriented. My guys can come to me and say, "Coach, this is what I see." When Corey Floyd first started playing for me 3 years ago, I told him, if you don't get a touch every 3 or 4 trips down the floor, you should be coming to me and telling me, "Coach, I didn't get a touch." And now that's what we do. Like Jamil Brown, he coming to play for me 3 years ago. It was hard. Jamil's quiet, and getting him to trust that you're going to be there on a throwback, take that shot. So again, trusting what you say as a coach and building that relationship with the kids, that they trust what you say, and then if it works, now you gain credibility. So I think building relationships and getting them to trust what I say is the biggest asset.
Yeah, and I think what that turns into, which is I'm a huge believer in at all levels, is I think every kid needs to be coached differently and like uniquely to what they are as a kid. I don't think there's one size fits all, and I think the way to do that is, it sounds like you got the recipe. All right, it's prepping for Peach Jam. We talked a lot about your team. We got a fortnight of Peach Jam. It's gonna be it's gonna be a marathon. What are you guys focusing on most heading into Peach Jam? Especially, you mentioned, as everyone knows, you guys have a target on your back, right? You're going to be ranked number 1 heading into the event. You're going to be ranked number 1 heading into the rest of the summer. I guess that's a 2-part question. How do you handle that target on your back, and what's most important to your program, and what are you guys most focusing on when you're preparing for Peach Jam?
I think handling the target is just, again, we stay together. Again, you can't say, use the cliche, block out the outside noise, not in the social media era. So again, it's about staying together and continuing to, and focusing on this one family, and let's take care of what we take care of. We control this whole situation, and let's focus on us. We're going to do the scouts, we're going to prepare, but the real thing is, if we control what we can control, that's us, then we'll take care of business. And then again, with us being down there 2 weeks, it's got to be nutrition, staying healthy, eating, hydrating, rest. Those are the things. And again, we do a great job as an organization of having the kids and utilizing a schedule and making sure that everything's organized and we have a plan in place going down here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's gonna be a grind. 5 days of Peach Jam is already long. So yeah, I'm sure you'll be figuring it out as you go, as we are as a media unit right now. We're trying to figure out how we're going to be covering it. So yeah, I think do you guys know your opponents yet? Do you guys know the pools? Have they released that? Well, internally they might have, but
they haven't released anything specifically as of yet. So I'm sure it should be coming soon, though.
Yeah, I think it's 4 pools of 7 and 1 pool of 6. I think something like that.
Yeah, I know it's I know it's pool play early, and I know it's at least 6 in our pool for sure.
So yeah, it'll be those first 6 days are going to be really, really highly competitive days of basketball.
Right.
But the first couple will be before coaches get down there, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think we start playing on the 13th, and coaches get there the 16th. So that'll be good to get them to kind of get going and kind of get back into it after being with the high school and doing the high school stuff in June. So
for sure, I'm glad they did it that way. And you guys have one tournament before you play one event?
Yeah, we'll be up at the Hoop Group at Spooky Nook in PA. We'll play 3 games before we head down to Peach Jam.
Okay, and then you play the week before too at July.
Yeah, it's on July 3rd. We play in the Battle for the Bell in Philadelphia against Philly Pride, who's an Under Armour program, and then Kalo Elite, Adidas program in the area.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, we're going to be running our the circuit score for each 17U team here shortly. I expect you guys to have, if not the top line, one of the top 5. And if you don't have the top, it's just because you haven't played as many games as the teams behind you. But I think you're sitting at 18-1 right now. I expect you to be in the 20s before that, before we hit Peach Jam. And yeah, like I said, I'm excited to see, when I started grassroots, one of my favorite teams the first couple of years, well, actually he's playing right now in the playoffs, Bridges. You had, was it Jaquel, who, Miami point guard? I can't remember. Jaquan, is it Richmond?
I'm not sure.
Jaquan Newton, excuse me.
Jaquan from Team Final?
Yeah. You guys had that team back in the day and that's the last time a deep Peach Jam run was made. Had the Michigan point guard. Yeah, you guys have been due for a long Peach Jam run. We haven't even talked about your 16s. Who's coaching the 16s? It's
Hart Sutton.
Okay, yep, okay, and he had the 17s a couple years ago. So you guys are three-headed monster there. So 16s definitely a Peach Jam contender too. Excited to watch both teams in North Augusta. So James, really appreciate the time. Make sure that squad stays healthy within the next month. Yeah, really appreciate the time heading on here.
All right, thanks for having me. I appreciate it, Alex.
Yeah, no problem. Take care.
All right, take care.